Hello. Hi, Marco.
Hi, Roberto. How are you?
Great to see you.
See you.
I'm very excited to do this live with you and so happy that we could make it. And actually, this is always the excitement of pressing the live, go live. And I'm now checking if we are live because we have, again, a little technical hiccup. So yeah, it looks like we are live. And by the way, we are not going to check the chat besides now. So just to check that we are live, I would love to the people who is connected to just say hello. So I see already a hello all. So looks like we are we are live. Hello team. Thank you. And yeah, so it looks like it's live and it's working. Now I'm taking off the chat and all these things because I don't want to be distracted by this. And first of all, thank you. Thank you, Marco, for being here, for finding the time. I know how busy you are, how many projects and things going on at the same time, and you're here, and thank you. And also thank you to the people who is connected at this moment, because you are investing 1 hour of your time, which is the most precious thing we have. We cannot get it back, so we have to make it 100% worth. And by the way, for me, it's a pleasure and a privilege to be here with you. And let me just do a quick introduction so the people know how we met and what's the story behind, and then I will leave it to you and see what's there. And we know each other for 1 year, and actually from April, this is 1 year and 2 months. Then we connected to a program from LinkedIn for creator, for an accelerator program. And then I remember it was funny because we tried to connect, and we had, oh no, I have this program, I have this, and have that. And then I kept following your work and vice versa, and the relationship was virtual and 100% on messaging. And then I saw so many things and so many projects and initiatives going on from your side, and one day I reached out again and with a question, and what struck me since the beginning is the infinite curiosity that I see in you, the willingness to try, to experiment, to do things, to build stuff. And it's funny because we're connected again talking about AI, which was 3 weeks ago. And in half an hour, it was like, wow, oh, we could do this. Yes, we could do that. And then after 1 year and 2 months, in 3 weeks, we are doing this live. So it's an example of how things can happen. And I admire a lot all the things that you share, Marco. It's really interesting to see also the human side of all the things that you share. And you have a book, which is called Imperfect Story. And you share, every Friday you share a story, which is brilliant because at the same time, it's a personal story, but then you have a message for all the people. And then you have also this creative and this drive to do more things and to explore and to experiment with AI. So this combination, to me, is amazing. So the infinite curiosity and humanity, and at the same time trying new stuff. So this is how I see you, and thank you again for being here. And at the same time, I would love to hear what's your story. What made you get to where you are? And of course, we're talking about imperfect stories, so maybe you have a story also about it.
So thanks for having me. I've been following your work for quite a while, and it's interesting we came across in this LinkedIn Creators Program, so I'm very grateful for that. I think my story is a story of that. It's a very imperfect story, and to show the other people that being imperfect, I think it's okay. In some way, we grew up with the expectation that we should always have the answer, that we should all have figured out. And I guarantee you that 90% of the people that we think have figured out, they don't. So I started 2 years ago writing on LinkedIn exactly because of that. The first reason was very selfish. I wanted to find a vehicle of creative expression that was not connected to any company I was working for. But the second thing was also, some people would come to me, hey, Marco, you seem to have everything figured out. And the conversation from then on took a very different turn. And I think it's not only because of social media, it always existed, but obviously social media amplified it. We created this idea, this facade that if life is not perfect, if we are not stoic, if we're not with our game face on the whole time, we are unworthy or weak. And I think it's the other way around. I think COVID definitely brought a different perspective to all of us. I don't think anyone wants to live more in a straight corporate environment in which people just keep a game face on. And that's why I started to do with Imperfect Stories and how I came about to create the book.
Yeah, and I like it how you say that you wanted to express something. It was like there is no mean. It's that I hear that this is who I am, and what I want is that people see that. And you don't want to give this image of perfect Marco who has everything figured out. Even if, for example, now you have a perfect video, the setting is amazing. Which, by the way, is another thing that I also deeply respect, all the detail. But at the same time, you are here and you're saying, yeah, I don't have it figured out. This is something that it's not true. And when you say that, it also frees you. No? You feel, okay, I don't have a responsibility of being right all the time.
And I think a lot of it is I like to use examples of other people because I don't intend this to be a fluffy thing. I intend it to be concrete. The story I'm going to republish this week is about my interaction with a very, very senior leader in the company when we started to talk about AI a year and a half ago. When I was showing her something, or I told her, have you heard about ChatGPT? And she could have just said, yeah, of course I heard about it, of course. And she actually said, no, I haven't. Can you tell me more?
Oh.
And that was incredibly powerful because she learned, I admired her, she learned something new, and she gained my respect even more. So it's about pointing out the examples in which those things happen, rather than just saying as platitudes without any concrete meaning. And that has been my driver to write those stories. And by the way, because I always get these questions all the time, did I have a concept for Imperfect Stories at the beginning? Absolutely not. Did I niche down or focus only on stories? 100% not. I think it was a random comment that someone made in one of my posts that they used the word imperfect, and it just came about that. So nothing of it was completely designed or anything, no. Which just shows how imperfect these things are.
Yeah, and it's brilliant. And at the same time, it looks like how just following your curiosity and seeing what you love doing, because we both have a full-time job. We do this as something that we love doing, and we get a huge satisfaction. For example, what you mentioned the comment, when you see that what you're sharing resonates with someone, or someone say, oh, this is also happened to me. And now that I know that, I feel better, or even I can contribute, and you may make me see something that I didn't see. So this is amazing. And then also, you remember that you started 2 years ago. So this is another example of, at the same time, how in these kind of things, 2 years is an eternity. and it's nothing, because it's 2 years. But 2 years of doing every week or every 4 days, one story, and then you look back and you say, wow, I did all of this. And one thing that I also love, and I also wonder, and by the way, you are inspiring me to do something similar, to give it my own twist, because it's amazing how fixing on the moment for example, this story that you mentioned now, the Tell Me More, this is one of the one that I say, wow, this is an amazing example of how I want to be. I want to be this person. And this also helps you to see what you want, what you don't want, and give it shape. And I also believe that what you can see in others is because you also share this value. So you would not be able to see all this humanity if you didn't share those values.
I think it's also important to be kind to ourselves. Some people tell me, "Oh, but why do I need to train and be aware of that?" That's how we've been wired our whole lives. I mean, how many times has the teacher asked the question and you raise your hand and said, "I don't know." Do you feel comfortable with that? You don't. So I think there's a series of patterns that we think will create a certain pattern of leadership that people will resonate with. But I think is that pattern of relationship and leadership it's sometimes detaching people from corporations. And by the way, I get this question all the time. Am I a rebel? No, I'm a corporate person, spent most of my life in corporate. I really believe in either love it, change it, or leave it. So I think it's about finding these examples, and there's no such thing as corporate. Corporate is people. There's no such thing as culture. Culture is people and values at work. And I think the more of us that are conscious of that, the more we can make these places, which is places where we spend a lot of time on, be more our places rather than a distant entity called corporate or the company.
Yeah, and when you say that, I remember that when you can see all these amazing things in people in the company, it's not longer, oh, it's the company. No, it's the people inside the company what make the company. And seeing all these things also makes it more evident. So when you see it, oh yeah, it's not only the building, and so, but there are people, there are relationships. And one thing that I also love about what you say is that it's like questioning our assumption. And even if you work in a big corporation, I also work in a big corporation. And if you look for human connection and humanity, there's plenty. So it's not true. Of course, you have to look for it. And the more you look for it, the more you find it.
A friend of mine has this brilliant expression: assumption is the mother of all screw-ups. And I built on top of that comparison is the mother of all miseries. And I think that's actually based in one of your illustrations, Roberto. But I do think that assumptions is, and it's not only assumptions we make of our people, but the assumptions we make in our own head. One of the stories I have in Imperfect Stories is about Ralph, which is the inner critic that lives in my head. And the stories we tell ourselves, or did we let this inner critic tell us, it's this constant dialogue which is based on assumptions. I won't be as good as they think. If I do this, they will think that. I am going to bomb. I am going to do all of those things. So a lot of it is trying to bust the assumptions by dialogue, not hiding or assuming something, because ultimately things will caught up with us.
Yeah, and also when you say assumption, there's also another side, not only on ourselves, but the label we put on the person, even before meeting them. And then, okay, this person is from finance, oh, there has to be this. This person is from legal, oh, there has to be the, or marketing, oh, marketing, there are all this.
100%.
There are so many biases and so many labels. And if we buy the label, then we don't see the person.
Yeah, and I can't say I think there's people that are able to be compassionate towards any person or situation. I am not at that Zen level, but I do think what happens in any relationship at work is, first, even if you fundamentally disagree, and sometimes I fundamentally disagree, I try to have the empathy of understanding why on earth could that person be acting that way. Because I think it helps engage in a more meaningful way. Now, can I agree completely? No, I'm not that Zen. If not, I'll probably be a Buddhist monk or something like that. But I
Absolutely.
do think it helps. That's the advice I've tried to practice with myself.
Brilliant. And I also 100% share this. Now we are talking very relaxed, but then I think about, when I'm in a meeting, do I always have this smiling face? Well, I try to. But there's one thing also that when you notice that you are thinking something, at least this is the first step. And you catch yourself saying, oh, now he or she is going to do this and that. And then I say, oh, what am I thinking? So what's happening? And then maybe you still give in, maybe you fall in the trap. But if you notice, maybe after the meeting, oh, what did I say? Oh, that. And then little by little, you become more conscious of what your reaction or response is. And you can try and change it and arrive to this Zen level that you mentioned someday.
One day, maybe.
Yeah. Well, actually, I'm very curious because you see, now we are talking about work, about companies, and we started the conversation with people and technology. What is the role in all of this of technology, and specifically AI and the things that now excite us so much today?
I think with AI, what I am seeing is the primary role of AI today is to free up time from things that we don't need to spend so much time on. And that by freeing up the time, so I'll give you a very concrete example. This morning, I'm trying to have more speaking engagements in the Middle East. So I got a link with events, and I created an Excel, and I was manually starting, okay, event, what is the date? What is the link for more information, the location, etc. Then I thought, wow, I'm going to be 2-3 hours doing that. Yeah. So I went to ChatGPT 4.0 and I said, here's a link with information, created a prompt. I wanted to create an Excel, figure out all of the conferences within these topics and create an Excel with these columns, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. By the way, add not only second half of 2024 and 2025. And in 5 minutes, I had that information. Now imagine if I had spent those 3 hours doing that, how much more stressed would I be during the day if for instance, spending 1 hour with you talking?
Yeah.
So I think first and foremost is AI is a tool that gives me a head start to focus on what really drives me and is meaningful, rather than something that is here just to replace me. There's a future in which it might replace us or not. I don't know. That's totally out of my control. I don't have direct access to all of the big tech companies. But for me, that is the primary vehicle. Paradoxically, I think AI is here to give us the opportunity to become more human and more focused on human relationships. Will we take advantage of that or not? I don't know. But I think the opportunity is here.
Yeah, absolutely. And this also reminds me of how easy it is to say, okay, you have to use this technology, but then there are people that have to use it. And what you mentioned when you said about your approach, which is absolutely creative, and you see opportunity rather than a threat. But at the same time, if you think, how can you do this in an organization? How can you extend or deploy or make people think of, okay, I'm doing this, but before doing it, could I use something to make it different? So what's your take on this?
I think we need to get people in a room, literally. We need to get people not to read about it, not to watch about it. Get them in a room, get laptops in front of them, and get them to use it. It's when we moved from the calculator to Excel. You could have read 1,000 papers about Excel, but only when you banged your head against a pivot table and failed at it, in my case, 343 times, that you were actually able to do it.
Yes.
And I think in this case it's the same. You need to get people in a room, from the most junior people to the most senior people, because the data, contrary to what people think, this is not a generational gap. We can't rely on the younger generations, for instance, as for instance, to teach us about social. There's data from this Microsoft Index Trend report, which says that of the people bringing their own AI to work, it's roughly between 75% and 82% of people across the 4 generations.
Wow.
So it's not really a generation thing. And I think we have been focusing a lot in the tech and in the data. But if we don't get people to use the tools to think, what I could say like is AI first. Okay, how can I do this much faster without thinking, one, that I'm cheating? Because if you're using Excel instead of a calculator, you don't think you're cheating. It's just a tool, right?
Yeah.
And second, really thinking, how can I make it work for me so that I can save time to do something more meaningful? And I think that only happens by getting people in the room. And I always tell the leaders of the companies I work with, right now, you may not believe me, but the biggest priority you have in your organization is to reskill your entire organization.
And it's curious because when you mention now putting the people in a room and tinkering with their computer and trying and breaking things and it doesn't work and try again, it came to my mind one of the things that you shared about the Lego workshop. What may be the connection with that?
It's interesting because when I do these kinds of workshops in keynotes, we need to develop the idea that playing with something, that's what you do with Lego, is building and learning something.
Yes.
Yeah. Obviously, as you can see, I'm very addicted to Lego. But for me, what Lego does for me is something that allows for me to be able to create something with my hands and build something, have that kind of fulfillment.
Yeah.
I think with AI is the same. I think we can play with AI.
Absolutely.
Of course, there's a lot of people are going to say, I'm not saying we should put confidential information there. I'm not saying there's no ethics. Of course there is. But you don't need to have, for you to do an agenda for an offsite with non-confidential information or do the simple exercise I just mentioned to you, which is on public information, which you could save probably 2 to 3 hours of your day, 2 or 3 hours of your day, you can play with it. And guess what? If you create a document or an image or a video and it's not 100% perfect, that's okay. I mean, remember the first YouTube video that was ever uploaded? It was literally a guy saying, we're here at the zoo. Well, of course it's not perfect. Technology is not perfect at its inception. But I think the more we play with it, the more we see the possibility and are less fearful about the potential outcomes. And more important, actually ask the right questions. Technology isn't perfect, but it's only if we ask the right questions about it that we're going to be able to make it work for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I love what you say about playing and this spirit of experimentation. And actually, my personal story of how I jumped into the AI hype or not hype. Maybe there is not yet hype as we could, but it was like I always loved coding, and I know how to code SQL and Visual Basic, which are pretty old language. And then somehow I missed the train of Python. And it was something that was always in the back of my mind. I said, I would love to know how to do a Python, but yes, of course, I have all my commitment, my family. I said, it's not my number one priority. So I said, okay, I will live without knowing Python. And then what happened? I signed up for one of the first GPT 3.5, and I was super excited because then it was like, no more space. There's a waiting list, and I got in. So I said, okay, let's try to translate this Visual Basic macro into Python. And I said, please, can you do this? This is my macro. And then magic happened, like, and I said, wow, this is really
wow, isn't it?
And I remember that day I couldn't sleep. It was like I was talking to my wife and I said, oh, Anna, this is so amazing. And she was like, please, I want to go to sleep. Tomorrow we will have time to do that. It's weekend. Don't worry.
I think it's that wow that you've seen. That's why I insist on people getting laptops.
Exactly.
Because it's not so much that, for instance, people say, oh yeah, you get a laptop and the person creates an image or a video, or in your case, some coding. But it's so much more than that, is that suddenly you know, and you are aware that whatever you do in your company, you can go from something that is an idea to an execution much quicker. Is it a piece of software? Is it a video? Is it an image? Is it a song? You can just imagine it and do it.
Yeah.
And I think that is an incredible time for everything around creative and building. That's why I identify this period of AI so much with Lego.
Absolutely. And now one thing's come to me when you say it's so easy. And I remember one person shared with me when we were talking about implementation of generative AI in our companies. And he told me, yeah, it's really easy to use. At the same time, it's not so easy to implement in a structured way. So it's like, okay, everyone can do, but then what's the next step? What would you say that the advice?
I think in companies, what I always say is the first thing you need to enable your people. And enabling your people is, one, you need to get them the tools at work. Yeah, you wouldn't bring your Excel to work. You wouldn't. So they need to arrive there and have the tools, and obviously in a safe way, in a way that the data is contained. But they need to arrive there and have the tools.
Yeah.
Part of enabling is also training, is getting them in a room and get them to use these tools for things that matter to them on the day-to-day. There's some of the examples I mentioned. The second thing, you really need to create this idea of experimentation. Exactly as you said. It's almost like what I see a lot of companies saying is, yeah, you can use it, but if you use it, there's 20 things you can do that will get you fired. No one will ever do that. And that's why so many people are bringing their own AI to work, which is not ideal because they're not doing within the security of a corporate IT environment.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the third thing is, I think we need to be way more clear in fostering that culture of experimentation, but also thinking about the future after the future. I think companies can do a much better job at that. This is a concept that I read from Ali Miller, which is, okay, you're going to get 30% productivity improvement. Example, what are you going to do with it? The easy management answer is, as you've seen in some leaders, is, okay, we're going to fire everyone and do way more with less people. But my question back is always, what if your competitor doesn't do that? What if they decide to go faster to market, be more customer-centric, build better products? So I think you need to have an answer to the moment you get that productivity gain, what are you going to do with it?
Yeah, absolutely. And when you say train the people and give them tools, I would also add, let them play and set aside time for playing. Because if you say, yeah, we're going to do this, let's play, but you have all these plates spinning and no plate can stop spinning. So yeah, what is the same example that you said when you said, okay, there are 10 things that may fire me for that. What's the incentive for playing? Yeah, maybe you will have some people playing because they absolutely inherently love it. So they the 1% or whatever. But yeah, I think we're talking about wide adoption. So I think we should leave space. And maybe it's in the beginning, it's an investment that will not give this immediate return, even if there are so many things that it's like magic, as we said. But if we don't give that space to play, and maybe something won't come out all the time, but maybe yes. And when it comes, if you invested all this time, then you will reap the rewards.
And you can use things that play directly from your job. So just I mentioned one example, creating an Excel, preparing even for, I want to buy a birthday present for my niece. She or he is this age. This is the last 3 things I gave. Do something like that. I want to go travel. Give me a travel. I want to do a report card celebrating, a fake report card celebrating my 15-year-old accomplishment at school. there's so many of those things that people can use it in a productive way, in which the output of the play might not be super useful, but maybe 50% of it will be, and people will see the value, and it will create what you were saying, that kind of cycle. It's
Exactly.
useful, I use it, then I use it more, so it's more useful. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's also reminds me that when you do this with daily things, it's always top on your mind, because sometimes happens that you give a tool and then we start the pilot and we see, oh, why didn't you use it? Oh, I didn't remember. I was so busy with my stuff. And I say, oh, and it's not like they don't want it or they don't try, but it's our day to day. So if you create the habit and then little by little you see, oh, this is getting results. So next time you have something, they say, "Man, let me play 5 minutes. Maybe in 5 minutes I have something. Oh, this is working. It takes out 10% or whatever of the work. Next time you remember, and then again and again and again. Yeah, absolutely. I see it's 4. Let's check if you want, Marco, how does this look like if you check the live and the conversation, if we have some question here in the chat, and then if not, we can go on, because let me check here,
I
refreshing.
saw something about the Millennium Falcon. Thank you very much. It's one of probably my most prized possession.
Yeah, let's see. We have some question here. Let's start here. Good morning. Hello. Millennium Falcon is awesome. Yeah. Person, Andre, is talking about the imperfect story and AI. You see the combination again of
Hi,
people,
Andre. Good to see you.
self-awareness. Yeah, looking beyond the job title.
I can talk a bit about this idea of the prompt engineering, which I understand where Andre is coming from. I think the prompt engineering is something that I think is transitional. For instance, if you see whether, I think was Anthropic launched last week, you just go write what you want and they create the perfect prompt. I think it's not so much about the prompt engineering itself. I think that had, as Andre pointed out, a very specific role to play up until now. But as we're evolving, I think we humans need to evolve in which a lot of tools that will be used with AI, they're going to be used with natural language. And I'm not talking only about coding, I'm talking about video, music, image, even Excel nowadays. You can actually say what you need. I think the 2 important things that I always advise people, that people ask me, so what should my kids learn nowadays if they're about to go into the workforce? I think is the critical thinking and the ability to ask questions. That's where the creative part and I think the prompt will fix itself very soon. You will be able to, okay, now you need to go to a separate website like this one on Anthropic and devise the perfect prompt. But very soon you will just say, hey, here's what I want to develop. Here's a rough idea. Can you help me get there? And there's even a not so distant future in which you will have agents that will be doing that kind of connected tasks. But I think right now the most important thing is developing that critical thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is, for example, what you mentioned before when you said, I have this problem, I want to attend conferences and I have this website. What should I ask my assistant, my AI assistant to do? And asking the right question and thinking about the problem. And there is a quote which a friend shared with me with it's connected with this. This is from Einstein, which he said, if I had an hour to solve a problem, I will spend 55 minutes thinking about the problem and 5 minutes in finding a solution instead of
100%.
jumping into action.
100%. I think there's something interesting that Tim also mentioned, the AI ethics problem, and that is making feel individuals are part of it. That I really agree with that. I published on my newsletter today. I published a weekly newsletter. It's the world's smallest AI newsletter. It's literally 1 minute, And I talked today, for instance, about the impact of energy usage of LLMs. That, for instance, running a prompt on ChatGPT takes 10 times the energy that it takes running a Google search. And that training a model, a large language model, can take as much as 130 American homes, as much as how much 130 American homes consuming electricity in 1 year. So I don't add this to the chorus of things that are against AI, but it's more to realize that I'm also part of the problem. I also then need to demand companies to find better energy solutions, but also as we're moving into a future in which we have choices of large language models and small language models, I can also choose to use small language models for things that are not as important. Or for instance, do I really need to use ChatGPT to do a calculation, whereas I can use Excel to do that? So I really agree with this point. It's part of all of us and not something for someone else to solve, because it's incredibly fast. It's really the fastest innovation in the history of at least the last three revolutions, industrial revolution, so forth. And has been incredibly fast. So we can't delegate to governments or to companies. We need to be part of the solution.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I see one more question here from Tim. Is talking about AI means I can be more present in meetings. What do you think about AI in meetings, transcript and recording and all these things?
100% is one of the use cases that I always talk about. I mean, have you been in a meeting which you have the stress of taking notes, thinking about your next meeting, thinking about reading the notes from your previous meeting and the action items, right? Now you can have it at the end of the meeting, the main summary, the main notes, and probably the action items, some of them already with suggested actions.
Yeah.
That allows me to be in that meeting way more present.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a friend of mine, I was talking with Claudio. He had the brilliant, I'm going to butcher his quote, but he had a quote such as, AI gives us the opportunity to be incredibly more productive or incredibly more lazy, right? In this case, I think it's really an opportunity. I can spend my time with you, Roberto, focusing on the conversation rather than the stress of the before meeting, the after meeting, and all the emails I need to tend to, and writing the notes and remembering the conversation with you. So I think it's a really good example, Tim.
Absolutely. And I would also add to that, when you talk about people and getting into a room, I think we still don't have the habit of recording the meeting. And when you're in a meeting, you say, okay, it's time to record. Recording. But at the same time, I'm very confident that this, with time, it will be more and more natural. It will be like in the background. So
Yes.
you start, and actually I did an experiment a few weeks ago, and I said, okay, we are in this program, etc. So we are experimenting, and I ask your permission to record this session. And so I will start in 10, 9, and with a little joke. And I gave them the possibility, if there was something personal or whatever, to send me a message on the back channel and say, no, please don't record this or whatever. I would be completely anonymous. And it was a fun moment. And actually, as you said, I felt much more liberated because I didn't have to write the meeting notes, and the notes were quite accurate. Yeah. And I also had more information. As you said, we can be much more productive and much more lazy. And I could see how much time did I speak, how much this person, what was my ratio to listen to speak. So many exciting things that I would not have access to. And then even when there are mentions, so there are infinite possibilities that are open. But again, first is the people, because you cannot jump into a management committee or whatever. Okay, we're starting recording, whatever. What is it? Explain to me.
And they need to see the value.
Exactly. Absolutely. Yeah. Let's see if we have some more questions. Very good question, by the way. Thank you for.
Thank you, Tim.
let's see, refresh one more time. The fresh water, yeah, the environmental, critical thinking. Yeah, the kids, and that's a great point, Andrea. And there's this ability of critical thinking in kids. And at the same time, I would love to add something on this. And I'm quite optimist on this because I see my kids and they are playing. They are still playing. They don't have mobile or access to technology, and they use all these things to explore and to experiment. So it's I believe it's a lot about the environment. If we show them, and also what we show them, if we are on the mobile all the time at dinner or whatever, what are we modeling? And if we use this tool for one thing, they will learn this and they will do it. So I think that our kids, on the contrary, our kids are teaching us a lot of things. And my daughter, for example, she said, "Oh, Daddy, why are you on the phone at the desk?" We said no mobile. I said, "Okay, Valentina, you're right." And so if we listen, if we accept the feedback, maybe our kids can teach us even to be more present, because they are born with this. So it's their world.
I think that the biggest hope I have for AI, it's to remove us from screens. Because we've seen recently, there was this experiment, I think it was in Norway, in which they took out the mobile phones from kids for 6 months, and there was more connection between them, bullying was reduced. So I really have an hope. Obviously, there's people are bashing R1, Rabbit R1, some of those devices are based on actions, but that's very early on technology. But I do think if we go more to voice settings, in which is more about a lot of what forces to be in our mobiles is because we're connecting with people and we have to do things. As we said, if I would be with you, as Tim was saying, I would need to take notes and look at my screen. I couldn't be looking at you all the time. Yes. So I have that hope. The other thing that I think is more fundamental than that is we will need to rethink education completely. There's no way the way you and I were brought up, which is basically getting the right answers, that is going to change completely.
Absolutely.
It's about developing critical thinking, developing the ability to creativity, leadership, what we now call, which is always interesting, soft skills. Those things will be way more important because a lot of the technical part of knowing something is super democratized. And I think that links to a question, is a friend of mine, Esteban. Good to see you, Esteban, about offshoring decisions with acceleration of AI. I think those questions will always come of what are you trying to achieve with the AI, right? I think we have with the AI the possibility to create much better products, much better stories, and go to market in a company setting in a way that is probably an incredible competitive advantage. Think about a small business that is launching now a business, how much of their barriers to entry completely lowered. It's probably the best time in the world to be an entrepreneur. Very hard. I really have huge respect for entrepreneurs, but their barriers to entry are completely lowered. Now, if companies will decide just to do some offshoring because they want to save money in the short term, they can do that. So I'm not agreeing or disagreeing. I'm saying there's a midterm and long-term impact of those decisions, and I don't think the best use of technology is in that direction. Same with kids. There's teachers now, they don't grade the answers anymore. You know what they grade? They grade the prompts. And I think that's going to start happening more and more and more. And again, as Tim pointed out, it's all of our responsibility. We all have a duty to show, okay, how can I actually use this technology to actually enhance my time with the people I am teaching or educating? My mom is a teacher. I remember her spending all weekends doing lesson plans and preparing the material because she wanted to have something fresh. Now teachers with things like Canmigo from Salcan, they can do lesson plans in minutes and spend the time than being lively and engaging with the students. And I think that's the shift that we all need to do.
Yeah, it looks like it frees more time to be human, to do the things that we as human can do,
Yes, 100%.
and the rest, okay, if something else can take care of it, and absolutely. And I love what you say also about the democratization, because it also, at least to me, gives so much space for experimenting and for combining things. Because if you had to be the number one expert to do something, then you cannot do this. We talk about, for example, the coding, the Python, now the experiment that I did with Python. But maybe if we can go even further, and there will be no code, and it will just build something. And then again, we mentioned, I still see all the Legos on the back. It's like, I want to build this, and you have to know what you want to build. You have to know what you want to ask. And then you have also to solve the problems that it comes into the way, because then maybe the first time it doesn't work. You have to try again and again. Oh no, try this and try this. And this is exactly, I think, the kind of play and experimentation that make us go forward.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you an example. I've never been able to do any Photoshop work or video editing work ever. I would, I don't know, try for 2 hours, then become so angry at it, I would just go fuming for a walk. Now with things like CapCut and Ideogram and Midjourney, I can just think of an idea and think about the perfect illustration or an idea I want to pass on.
Yeah.
And just do it. And I was never able to do that. So it really gives you that possibility of creative expression plus saving time, because you can argue, yes, you can still creatively express yourself and edit a video in 10 hours, but I prefer to spend, to your point about the 55 minutes thinking about the idea of the story and then 5 minutes executing it, rather than the other way around.
Yeah. And now that you say this, that frees time, I don't know if you feel the same, but I feel that even if I free 30 minutes, then I discover so many things that could not only take this 30, but 300 minutes, because now I can do this and this and this and this. Yeah. So it's infinite possibilities, and the time is finite. So how do you manage this, Marco? Because especially in the world of AI, new things are coming out every day. And what's the tip if you have any tip for that?
The advice I always give to people is choose one. It's very easy to get overwhelmed. So I get overwhelmed also when I read a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's moving so fast. Just 2 weeks ago, in the same week, the announcements of OpenAI, Google, and Microsoft, I was literally in a conference giving a keynote, and my keynote in 18 hours became outdated. It's really important that we choose one tool and try to max it out. That's why I always tell people. You like music, go on Suno and just try it. You like image, go on Midjourney. You like, you love doing slides? I don't, but if you love doing slides, max out Copilot on PowerPoint. Because it's going so fast that you won't be able to max out that tool rather than, and of course then you can pick and choose. One day I just want to do something different, that's okay. But don't worry about the breadth of tools. And the second thing is, this is the fact that all of these tools are broken into different providers. This is temporary. Tomorrow, Facebook launches Llama 3 across all of their properties, and 3.2 billion people in the world get access to all of this. So all of this consolidation is happening as we speak. That's why the important piece is, again, the critical thinking and the familiarity with the tools. The tools themselves, they will all merge, and the best outcome for all of us is that in a couple of years, we won't even talk about AI. We will just say, you don't say, oh, I made these slides with PowerPoint. You will actually just say, oh, I made this, and AI was just a tool.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's great that you say this, because again, we talked at the beginning about being authentic. No? So you are here, you're an expert in AI, you're on the cutting edge of everything, and you are here admitting that our own presentation are obsolete, and that's okay. And again, reminds me of what at least I feel sometimes, that I see all these people talking about this, and they say, oh, I'm not on top of things. I want to be more. And then you think, maybe they don't have all figured out. Maybe it's just, you see just this 1%, but then there is a rest of 99%. I read another article that said everyone knows what's ChatGPT, but then not everyone knows what is Gemini, the Llama, and the Anthropic, and all these things. These are, because it's impossible to keep up with everything. So I will also add to normalize and don't stress out too much. And I have to know all of this. And one more thing to what you said of niching down and knowing the tool that you love. There's also that gives the beauty of connecting with other person who loves that. So for example, if you are a PowerPoint pro, I will call you, Marco, can you help me with this PowerPoint? And then you can teach me. Absolutely. And this also is it's community. What you said at the beginning of bringing the people in the same room, there will be the expert in PowerPoint, there will be the expert in Python, etc. And then you know who knows what, and then you can also do it.
Yeah, focusing on the part of community, which is the part, we talk a lot about burnout at work, and people think burnout is just because of working long hours. Whereas one of the sources of burnout, there's one related with values, but the other one is people don't feel they're doing meaningful work.
Oh, yeah.
And it is true that a lot of the work we are doing is not as meaningful because it's technical work that we don't necessarily need to do. So if we free up that time to do the meaningful work, whatever shape or form, I think there's that opportunity to create community and connection, which will allow us to be more connected and more fulfilled at work.
Yes, and absolutely. And I will also add to this, the letting people see what's their interest and letting play. So maybe there's something that I love, but I don't know it. So until I don't try it, I cannot know. But taking a little bit, a little step in one direction, see what's that. Okay, I like it. Another one, oh, this is amazing. Okay, maybe I will take note. And so it's a delicate balance, no, between going all in on one thing, but at the same time being open to see what other things are there without investing so much, but at least knowing what's going on.
And there's this story. I was with someone this weekend. It was a German gentleman, and he had to do in quite a big wedding the speech for his daughter that was getting married, and he didn't speak fluent English, and he's in his 70s, and he knew that. And then he said, I actually used ChatGPT to prepare the speech, to rehearse the speech, to give me feedback on the speech. And you know what people said? They said it was the best speech of the day. And do you think I told them I used AI? No, because it was just a tool. But he was so proud. And if you think about that meaningful moment of getting his daughter married, that was something that, especially in a foreign language, in front of 500 people, that was quite meaningful. So make it work for you so that you can then express your enthusiasm to others, and then you create that vicious circle.
Yes, I love that. So it's like you find something that has meaning for you, and then it's the tool, and the tool is in the background. It's not the focus on the tool. It's what do we want to do? What impact do we want to have? And then with that, you pick the perfect tool. But then first think about the impact.
Exactly.
Absolutely. I love it. We could go on for hours, probably. I'm very conscious of the time. And to sort of wrap up, I would love to ask you one more question, which is, of course, we cannot predict the future, and no one, and never, and not even now. But still, I would love to ask you one question, which is, what would you like to see more in the world, and what would you like to see less?
I would like to see more stories in the world and real stories. I think that's what I want. We don't need. I'm loving this trend now. There's this journalist from the BBC. She was covering the Trump trial, and I noticed that she was doing their live coverage using her phone, and I thought that was brilliant because you don't need to be so polished, even if you're. I love that. We see more of these stories, and people are telling more of these stories without uh,
Yeah.
focusing so much on being perfect.
Oh.
What I would like to see less is polarization. I'm seeing, for different reasons, the world is very polarized. I think with technology, there's also the potential to have technology dissociated from, in this case, business and people. And
Mhm.
I talk a lot about this concept of bridgers,
Bridge.
is tech people be a bit more business, bring the tech down to something tangible. We respect you tremendously. And business people be a bit interested in the tech. Because if we get them together, I think we're going to see amazing outcomes. And that's my hope, that we're going to crack this polarity that's being created in the world. And I think technology is a great opportunity for us to do that.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. And I think that one of the proof of that is what we are doing now. So we are using all this kind of technology, etc. But in the end, we have a conversation. We are human, and we have all our flaws, our insecurity, etc. But we are going forward, and we are learning from each other.
Yes, 100%.
Thank you. And one more thing, Marco. Uh, if someone wants to reach out to you or uh, whatever you think it's the best way.
Yeah, just add me on LinkedIn. I also have a website, is marcoandre.ai. So I'm trying to create a brand association. Just feel free to do that. And if I can while I'm here, I actually love your work. Followed your work, Roberto, as you know, way before I met you. I think you are brilliant at telling stories through illustrations, and you always, every time you make a comment or do something, I really appreciate that. You bringing that kind of simplicity and humanity to very simple things. I think there's an art of bringing complexity to simplicity. Making things complex is easy as a paradox. So I really appreciate you having me, and I'm looking forward for us to keep chatting. And thank you for everyone that took their time. I really respect that they took the time to listen to us.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. First of all, thank you, Marco. 100% agree with you, and thank you for your kind words. And also thank you for the people who was connected, for the great question that they asked.
Very good question.
And I had a lot of fun. It was super exciting. You're a super generous person. You're a human, and at the same time, I see you're creative, open, and you are exactly this kind of bridge that you say. We need more Marcos in the world, bridging humanity and technology. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.